Hi, I'm delighted to be joined today by Samantha and Raquel, and we're going to talk about the super important topic of tax governance. So, tax governance, it isn't new. We've had things like senior accounting officer, corporate criminal offence. What impact's ESG going to have on tax governance?
You're right, Carol, tax governance isn't new. It was back in 2015 that HMRC started raising the topic as something that taxpayers needed to consider. And the great thing about the ESG agenda is it shines a light on tax governance work that's been happening for a long time now in the background, and it's really now pushing it up the corporate agenda to board level.
Yeah, the very interesting thing that ESG is doing is using tax in a different way as an instrument to create positive change. But with that comes extra challenges. There's extra regulation and there's extra scrutiny from external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and the biggest challenge for businesses is how they are going to evidence that they have a strong tax controls framework to make sure that they can demonstrate their transparency and demonstrate that they are responsible taxpayer.
It's absolutely right that it's a crucial part of social responsibility that you pay your fair share of taxation, and a robust tax governance framework is really the tool that enables you to demonstrate that that's happening.
And as we move forward, governments will increasingly use tax levers to drive behavioural change. So we'll start to see lots of different types of tax. What challenges do you think that brings to tax leaders from a risk and governance perspective?
I think particularly with the environmental taxes, the challenge is that the processes that calculate those taxes are really sitting outside the normal finance processes that tax leaders are normally working with. So it's a challenge to get the visibility and control over those areas.
And the essential part of managing it is making sure that the business is communicating, that the different functions are coming together to understand what each other are doing. And tax is at the very centre of it.
Do you have any kind of real life examples that you'd like to throw in of some of the challenges?
I think it's important that an organisation is connected and aligned on this topic, and that one part of the organisation isn't contradicted by another. I think, Raquel, you had an experience
Absolutely,
recently.
Sam. Yeah, so we've been discussing with many clients over the past year, and we had a specific situation where a client had very ambitious aspirations in relation to ESG and what they wanted to put in the public domain, but a quick Google search showed that they were actually shown to be doing something different in another jurisdiction. So it is very important that the business is aligned with what they are doing from a strategic perspective, but also what they are doing in terms of managing their taxes, because with ESG everything will come together and will be out there in the public domain.
Yeah, and governance very much the how you're going to execute across the E and the S, so it is really important to get it in right and consistently right and embedded.
Absolutely, and I think one of the keys to getting it embedded in the organisation is really looking at what exists in terms of other control frameworks that tax can build on. I think if you're using the same language and familiar processes, albeit in a different context, it's so much easier to get these things embedded within the organisation.
Absolutely.
Tax, we need to de-tax ourselves and come up with more common accessible language.
Absolutely, and as well, I think we need to sell the positives of tax governance. It's not just about putting controls in place for the benefit of the tax authority. If you've got good tax governance, it really eases the flow of other business processes. So, for example, your invoices are not challenged by your customers if the VAT is always calculated correctly. So your cash collection is slicker and you're spared the expense of crediting and re-invoicing multiple transactions. So
It's not control for control's sake. It is about giving the business that visibility and giving that comfort to the decision makers, to the board, that the business is doing the right thing and you're knowing what you're managing in real time.
And it's delivering benefit across the board.
So tax leaders, super busy, only going to get busier. ESG, vast. So from a tax risk and governance perspective, what should they have at the top of their to-do list?
I think that vastness is one of the things that puts people off tackling tax governance. It's where do you start? So I think the top of the list would be to start with something, a small area that you have familiarity with or that is important to your business, and building out from there.
That's absolutely right, Sam. And I see that most tax leaders are very scared of being exposed, and it's important to understand and take into account that there is a process of change, and change doesn't happen overnight. And if you start small and making sure that tax processes and tax control framework is aligned with your ESG strategy, it is a very important point.
Yeah, you can just pick off, say, one process, for example, order to cash, or one area of tax, and start small.
And start from there, yeah.
So thank you both. Tax governance will have increasing prominence and importance with an ESG kind of lens. I love that you focused on the value that it rightly should bring to efficient business process. Thank you both.